Hi everyone, welcome to Init Talks. Welcome everybody, happy to see you here. We got today Sarah Hawkie. She is a co-founder of Nighthawk Racing and also a podcaster for First. We're going to talk about sim racing, and she's also the supercar coach. So let's start. Sarah, welcome, happy to see you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so let's start. Talk about your job and how you get into coaching, how you get into like the supercar coaching. So let's start from this.
Yeah, okay, cool. So it happens just before I got that job, I got invited by Porsche GB to go to Brands Hatch to test. I think at the time it was 4 brand new Porsches. Obviously they'd be a couple years old now. But I kind of got picked out of 12. I don't know if anyone knows of Esme Hawkie. She used to race in the Porsche 911 kind of cup, and she held like a competition where I think 12 women got invited to do this We Drive event. And lucky enough, as one of the 12 that got picked, I don't know how, but I was very lucky, and obviously I was very thankful for that opportunity, because before that I'd never really kind of done any on-track driving. I'm used to doing like sim driving and sim racing, but that was kind of my first on-track experience, and obviously to drive Porsches was quite a jump from going nothing to doing driving the Porsches around my favourite track. But after that my parents actually bought me an experience day package for my 21st birthday, and at the time I think it was to drive another Porsche, an Aston Martin, a Nissan GTR, and I can't quite remember the last one. But I had that experience, and at the end of the day, I don't know if it's obviously because a couple of days before I had coaching myself, and I must have I guess it kind of ingrained in me. They offered me the job. At the time, I was about to finish a uni degree, so I was at that kind of point in my life where I was like, I want to take the next jump into a career. It just so happened that came at the right time, because I was wondering, what should I do? I was at that stage of life where I was like, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to use my degree in something, because I did sport and exercise science, and I was, do I carry on? Do I go for a job? And this was kind of the perfect opportunity, because it was self-employed. I could kind of choose my own hours, choose what tracks that I worked at. So I now obviously work with a couple of companies, but it's a very cool job, and trying to explain it to someone else is always the hardest bit, because when you say I'm a supercar instructor, they're like, whoa, what's that? But I try and say that obviously I'm the person sat next to the person driving, talking through braking points, when to accelerate, trying to teach them basic kind of track terms like apexes, obviously when to put the throttle on, like I say, when to brake, trying to show them parts of the track where, I would brake, and lap by lap trying to push them a little bit more so they feel comfortable in themselves driving these really fast cars, but also they get the experience of a lifetime like I did when I was sat in the driving seat. So I try and give them a good experience, and also, like I say, at the end of the day, not many people get those opportunities to drive those really fast cars, so I really want to make sure that they have fun and they would come back and do it again. So I was very lucky to get the opportunity, like I say, and it was like the perfect time in my life. But that's how I fell into the supercar stuff, and I've been doing that for about 2 years now.
This is awesome. I worked also as a supercar instructor, so I was like on my own also. So we had some sessions on the racing track with Porsche Carreras. So I had a really beautiful girl with 911, and been doing some track days with her. So this thing is kind of popular, so if people doesn't know about this, so now they got some information that people work in, as you said, to give good emotions of driving the car and great experience on the track. What actually sparked your passion to motorsport? Like that happened before 21 year old, so maybe in childhood.
Yeah, I've always been car mad, as I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I start talking about cars, I can never really shut up because I'm always talking about it, and the job definitely helps because I can kind of talk about it for as long as I want. But from when I was young, my parents, obviously, when I learnt to drive, I was very passionate about trying to get on the roads as quick as I could, just because I've always had that kind of drive and passion that I want to pass as soon as I can. So when I turned 17, I was like, yep, booking the test, going for that. And luckily I passed that first time, so I didn't have to wait too long. But I also set up a car online club, and that was obviously mostly during the pandemic when the world just shut down. I created that so that it with a friend to bring like-minded car people together, because obviously you went through a time in the world where everything just shut down, car meets stopped, you couldn't go out and see your friends. So I kind of created this online community so that people that are feeling lonely, but they could talk to people maybe with similar cars or the same passion, and I found that really brought people closer together. But yeah, I've always been into cars and racing. I'm always watching. I'm always trying to go to local tracks. My local track is Brands Hatch. So even when I was little, I was like, I want to go to. It doesn't matter what's on track. I just wanted to go there, kind of feel that environment, and I've always enjoyed that.
That's awesome that you're living next to the Brands Hatch, absolutely legendary track, and in my opinion, one of the best, which we got because of this high and down changes, absolutely incredible on this track. So how's actually transition from like you did a lot of in real life, stuff in racing, and how did you dive into sim racing?
Probably like everyone else, it's kind of that when you're at home, you want to kind of carry on doing what you love, which is driving, and that's kind of the next best thing, or in my opinion, one of the best things to, when you're not on track, you've got this set up at home that you can practice whenever you want. But that sim racing passion probably sparked mostly when I was in lockdown, because I think like everyone else is like, what do I do? And that's when I really kind of invested a little bit more time into it. Before that, it was kind of just playing with friends, like I said, just playing a few games here and there. I started on, I think, GT Sport. That was kind of my first experience of competitiveness racing, sim racing. I haven't quite gone up to iRacing yet. I don't have the setups and stuff, but that's in the future. I'd like to give that a go as well. But yeah, I'd say that although lockdown was a very difficult time for the world, that's where I kind of like homed in on sim racing and really wanted to try and give it a go. And recently, obviously, I'd say in the last year or so, I set up Nighthawk Racing with a friend to kind of again bring like-minded people together, even in a community where we're all playing this one game. We all kind of met through GT7 and GT Sport, so it just brought us a lot closer as a friendship group. But also now we're 4 seasons in, and we've season on season we're learning things, we're changing things, and we're getting more and more people in. Because obviously GT, when you're on consoles, it's kind of that entry level, so it's a good kind of place for everyone to kind of begin their journeys as well. So like I say, that's where I began my journey with sim racing.
This is awesome. Yeah, I think that many people started sim racing during pandemic times because just racing tracks didn't work, and many in real life drivers also jump in here and actually. So many people discovered that oh, we got sim racing, we got like racing, and some other simulators as well, like Gran Turismo. I think Gran Turismo is really good entry level for many people because not everybody got PCs, and they just can buy PlayStation and play it right from the start. And yeah, that's a great opportunity, definitely. So how did you start your own team in Gran Turismo? How that happened, and like how many people you got right now here?
Yeah, like I say, when GT Sport was my kind of first experience of the GT franchise, and I was lucky enough to meet really good friends from it, which obviously my co-founder, I call him Midnight, but his real name is Luke. But it's always that thingy when you know someone's online kind of name, you always refer them to as that. But we just sat down one day and thought, what can we do to kind of help people that we're in our position, which is like you want to race with friends, but you also want to be competitive. You might not want to do kind of the daily races. You want to kind of start, learning with people, and then you might venture into a little bit more kind of other leagues or the dailies, like I say. And we sat down, we kind of planned our first season. It was a learning curve, season one, because obviously we've been in loads of leagues before, but we never held one ourselves. So it's kind of, what do people expect from us? What do we expect from people? Obviously, we learned a lot during that season one. And yeah, like I say, the reason we set it up was to bring everyone together through people that we've met in other leagues. Obviously, I did the Init Esports, I think the Winter Cup last year, where I raced along kind of Sharon, Sophie, Yvonne, and that was a great experience. And it's, again, you bring people that you know from other leagues and stuff together, and it's a learning kind of environment for people that might want tips, tricks. We have training videos. Pedro, one of our training admin, he likes to really kind of film the videos where he's training people on certain tracks, showing them where breaking points are, apexes are, where to accelerate, and people really kind of find that helpful when they're trying to learn a track on the game, because it can be quite a difficult game to try and get used to if you're not used to how the GT7 physics work. Sometimes it can be in your favor, or sometimes they're really tricky. So it's just about kind of helping people learn, but also having fun and a bit of competitive racing at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're doing this investment from your side to community of Gran Turismo. I think that's a good thing about sim racing also, that when you come in as a newbie here, you got like a bunch of videos on YouTube, you got good leagues, good teams which you can join, and that's definitely help sim racing grow at the same time. So can you tell me what was the biggest challenge when you started sim racing?
I'd say for me it's the consistency,
Mm-hmm.
because one lap I'll be, I feel amazing, I feel like I've done a really good lap time, and then the next something else will just happen, and I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know where I am on track, and I kind of all lose it in that one corner. And for me, I've been trying my best to try and improve that consistency, and I think it's the hardest thing, because one lap pace obviously for qualifying is quite helpful, but when you're doing a long race, like an hour long, you've really got to kind of improve that consistency if you want to fight with the people at the top. And that's the thing that I think is the most difficult bit for me at the minute, is trying to set that consistent kind of base for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, consistency is really hard to reach, especially when you're just starting and with a new car. So you need more time to adapt, to also like get used to the car, to the track. So fully understand you. What is your favorite combo in Gran Turismo? Like, what do you like drive the most here?
Probably the Group 3 cars. That's the one I've probably got the most experience in. I'm a little bit biased. I like driving the Porsche because in real life that's one of my favorite cars as well. And obviously, kind of relate that thing back to Brands Hatch and driving real life Porsches. It, I say the games don't do Brands Hatch justice, because I always say to anybody that I meet, Brands Hatch is a lot better in real life. You kind of, like you said earlier, you feel kind of the undulations when you go down Paddock Hill, and I'd recommend anyone to go to Brands Hatch in real life. But yeah, I'd probably say Brands Hatch and the Porsche is my all-time favorite
Mm-hmm.
combo. But I like just learning different tracks. Currently in the season that we're doing now, I'm driving the BMW M6. It's very difficult when you get that rear end facing the wrong way. Sometimes I put a little bit too much acceleration down, and temporarily I'm facing sideways. But yeah, I just kind of like that practicing, with friends trying to help each other improve, and that's what we're kind of all about at Nighthawk Racing at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer sprint races or endurance races? Like, did you ever do any endurance races with your team, maybe?
I'd say personally, I'm a little bit better at sprint races. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said earlier, I can kind of, with that one lap pace, I might be able to, do a sprint race better than a feature or an endurance race. I think the longest I've done is a couple of hours. Um, but our feature race is an hour long, and even that I find kind of hard doing, multiple laps at a consistent lap time. But I'd like to obviously give endurance racing a little bit more of a kind of an effort from my side, because I've always kind of, my experience is more sprint races, so I'm able to kind of get into it quickly, because I know obviously you've not got enough time in a sprint race to kind of climb up the grid. But I like that kind of quick, fast paced racing, where the kind of endurance side, obviously it's a lot more concentration. It's a lot more, like I said, improving that consistency. And that's kind of, I'm at that kind of pivotal point where I'm nearly there, but I'm not quite there when it comes to endurance racing.
All right. So I hope that in the future maybe you're going to do some endurance races because they are so exciting because you're working with a team and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when maybe racing with your friends or just racing with faster people because you're learning a lot from them as well. So that's always a great opportunity. Can you tell me what is your current setup looks like for some racing? Like what wheel you use and pedals?
Yeah. Well, I recently bought a Playseat Evolution 1. I was on just an office chair with a kind of a wheel and pedal stand, but I've managed to find a second-hand one that was quite local to me. And currently, I only have a Logitech G29,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm trying to save up to like either a Fanatec or kind of a one of the new kind of Logitech or Thrustmaster models, but they're very expensive, and and I have to work a lot of events to be able to afford one of them at the minute.
Yeah, I think so many people started with like G27, G29. I personally started with G27 during pandemic, had only single screen, so moved to the D recently. So yeah, everything in the future. Don't worry about equipment. I think you just have to focus on practice and on races, on your driving skills first of all, and then think about equipment because even some pro sim racers they running with G27, G29. So yeah, I think that setup overall not really important. Like it's important, but more important your driving skills definitely. Um, let's talk about how do you feel like to be female sim racer in the Gran Turismo community? How they treat you? Because me as a sim racer in the iRacing, I'm feeling quite comfortable, and community on Twitch really welcome to me. Well, sometimes you meet some toxic people, but they just like want to people and the rest of the community. Absolutely amazing, and welcome everybody.
Yeah, like yourself, I think kind of on Twitch and kind of when you're in, especially in esports, obviously it kind of empowers women, and we all kind of stick together in a way. I've always had a positive experience on Twitch, not so much on kind of GT7 when you're racing, random people in the world. I have had the occasional, you know, what are you doing here? Why are you racing?
Yeah.
The stereotypical things that they want to say to a woman, like, go and push a pram or something. I've had that before, and that was quite shocking. I was like, okay, all right. But yeah, I've those kind of stereotypical kind of comments across on a game when they don't really know obviously the person behind the steering wheel. But I've got to say, on Twitch and on social media in general, I've had quite a positive, I guess, relationship with it. But I'd say on the game itself, when you're not with friends and you're trying to improve, just by doing kind of those daily races or racing randoms, that's when it becomes a little bit, I'd say a little bit more kind of, I don't want to say sexist, but in a way, obviously, sometimes when you're, say, the only woman racing in that lobby, then it's almost you put a little bit of a target because they're like, obviously, that's one thing that they've noticed and that's one thing that they can comment on. But most of the time, they're not actually commenting on like how I've done in a race, or like if I've beaten them, and they don't say congratulations or anything like that. But all in all, I've had, I'd say, a more positive kind of experience than negative. But you always, unfortunately, with anything, you get that kind of one person that wants to comment. But yeah, I'd say more positive than negative. But yeah, I don't like it when those comments appear. I kind of try and shrug it off, but sometimes it will get to me a little bit. My friends will know on the Twitch side, whenever I've been kind of streaming and one of those comments have come up, I've tried to ignore it, not kind of give it the attention it. But yeah, I try and shrug it under the carpet, because I don't feel like in this day and age, especially, they need to comment about that. It's more obviously if they said I was a really bad driver, then I'd be like, okay, I'll try better. But when they kind of bring, that you're a woman in, I don't think it's really deserved in that respect.
Yeah, some people just don't change. So you just, have to accept they exist here, and sometimes they are part of the communities, like in shooters and gaming and sim racing as well. The funniest thing which happened with me in racing, I was driving ovals, and ovals a little bit more with powerful men and all this stuff. So not a lot of girls driving here compared to road races. And they just started to laugh that I'm a 12 years old kid, a boy. And I said to them, like, I'm a girl, and they like, oh, I'm sorry, and just changed completely. It was really funny. So yeah, most of the time, community really friendly, and people supporting you, people so happy for you, for your wins, and for your good races, and trying to support you when you got like some crashes and bad racing. Did you see that actually some racing community changed for the years? Like, you started during pandemic, and how do you see community right now? So maybe they like more friendly to girls also for these times.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think when I started, it was kind of that initial, like, it was probably more apparent back then, the comments of like being a woman and racing, like, what are you doing? But through the years, I think it's got better. There's less comments and less comments. It's kind of, like you say, more about kind of empowering, women that are sim racing in motorsport, especially obviously these days. You've got kind of more kind of, I call them influencers, but role models in motorsport and sim racing that you can look up to that are women. Obviously, I'd say kind of more than a few years ago, there wasn't those role models that people could kind of look up to. But I'd say now there's definitely a lot more kind of female role models in the, the sim racing and motorsport world. And that's why I think obviously there's less and less comments, and kind of more, like I say, people supporting each other. I did have a going into real life. I did have a funny experience that I just remembered when I was supercar instructing, where I was instructing this man. He was, I think, he was a little bit older. I'd say probably 60 to 70 age range, and we were we were behind another car. And normally at that point, otherwise, I'd kind of review how fast they're going, if we got enough room to overtake, because on some of the tracks they put kind of man-made chicanes where you've got to try and get the customers through safely. It tests their driving skills a little bit when you've got kind of more of a, I'd say, an easier track. But we were around Liddon Hill, which is kind of like a rallying track here in the UK. We were behind another car. We were following it for about a lap because they weren't giving us enough space to overtake. So I was just saying, off a little bit off the accelerator, we'll keep behind them, and then we'll overtake on the next straight. And I think he completely forgot in his head, but he said, "Oh, women drivers," and I just looked at him and was like, "Okay." He looked at me, and then I think he realised. He was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. That wasn't meant to you." I was like, "Okay, that better not have been," because he was going quite fast at that point. I didn't need to really give him any kind of tuition, a little bit, because obviously people that age, they think they can drive amazingly when most of the time they've picked up bad habits. So I was trying to kind of comment on those bad habits. But yeah, I found that funny because it was that kind of moment of realization when he looked at me and he was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry that I said that."
Well, that's the best moment which could happen, actually.
Yeah, I laugh about it to this day because I was like, I don't think he meant it, but obviously he had that initial thought, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's really funny moment which you had. Also, how do you compare the sim racing to real life, as you drove cars in real life and in Gran Turismo? So, what do you think? How close sim racing to real life racing experience?
I'd probably say a little bit. If I was on more kind of ACC or iRacing a little bit more, then it's more kind of realistic. I think those games in general. I think obviously GT7 kind of borders that sim racing / arcade game, because obviously it's not one of the most realistic ones out there. But especially for tracks that I've never been to before, if they're on the game, then I will give it more attention. I will go for a few laps, kind of, or watch, like you say, some YouTube videos of other people driving around that track in the game to kind of gauge where people brake or where people kind of find that speed. I think it helps in that respect when, like I say, when I've not been to a track or driven it myself, I will give it kind of a 5-10 minutes trying to learn it. But I'd probably say for me, I think ACC and iRacing are kind of the games on the market, or the sim racing games on the market, that really have that kind of more realistic feel, and probably would kind of translate to more speed in real life. Obviously, you got the Max Verstappen's, the Lando Norris's, driving on iRacing when they're not, traveling around the world with F1, and obviously I think they find it helpful to kind of keep that competitive edge when they're not racing.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. So I'm in racing, and I race some open wheelers before. Definitely can tell that Formula 4 is really close to what you feel in real life, in terms like force feedback and how car also feels on track. I can tell about the other cars because I didn't drive them in real life, but really like Porsche Cup in racing. It's so cool to drive. So yeah, I hope you're going to get opportunity in the future to jump into racing, jump maybe into ACC, and AC Evo is kind of interesting as well in terms of how car feels on the track, and feedback as well. So I really like it personally. Don't know if you tried it, but it looks really promising right now, even on start of the early access.
Yeah, I've not tried the Evo. I've tried the ACC before. But like you, I've kind of been interested in watching, other people play Evo, and kind of, it looks pretty interesting, like you say, and hopefully I get the chance to have an experience on it soon. I think obviously I've got a lot of wish lists, items on my wish list, like a PC, kind of a more
Mm-hmm.
built up rig. That's kind of my goals I'm trying to work towards, because I do want to make that kind of transition from, console gaming to, proper sim racing,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of more, I'd say, more time that I could set aside to practice and kind of try and expand my skills on that a little bit more, as well. Obviously, real life, I want to try and go for my race license hopefully this year,
Mm-hmm.
if not next year, because I want to make that jump from kind of supercar instructing to then instructing, kind of inspiring, or trying to aspire, the next generation of racing drivers, and that's what I'm trying to make my job into. It's very hard trying to make that transition from kind of a self-employed supercar driving instructor to then, trying to teach racing drivers, in different cars. That's where I want to be, but that's quite far away from me at the minute.
So as I understand, you want to be also like racing drivers instructor, yes? Or do you want to maybe race in real life some series like in, I think in UK you got a lot of racing series which are absolutely great and competitive as well.
Yeah, I would never say no to having an opportunity to race. I think I want to make that transition, at some point, give racing a go, and kind of support like the instructing race drivers on the side. But it's just budgeting and sponsorships at the minute. I need to learn a little bit more about that, and kind of like how to approach sponsorships, if I want to kind of make a real go for it. But that's the bit that at the moment I'm kind of finding the hardest, is obviously driving. If you've got a lot of driving skills, that's one thing. But obviously, you've got to then think of it as kind of more of a business opportunity for yourself and the companies that you're trying to approach. And I'm trying to trying to learn that a bit at the minute. But like I say, I would never say no to racing in real life. And at some point, hopefully, I'd like to lose a little bit of weight before that as well, because obviously I want to put myself in kind of the best position possible, while I have the opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome that you got these dreams and actually got a good plan to reach all of this. Hopefully, you'll get racing license in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you think? How can we encourage more girls to jump into some racing and racing as well? Like we all trying definitely. Like I'm doing streaming and just people coming and they're like, oh, like girls racing, yeah. So what's can be done in your opinion?
Yeah, I agree with you. Kind of being on online platforms, especially these days. Obviously, everyone's kind of got a mobile phone or a laptop or a tablet. If they're seeing, females in this industry, and they're sitting behind the screens thinking, "Oh, I might want to do that myself." Obviously, kind of people like ourselves in esports. Obviously, they can contact them if they're at that point where they're not quite sure which route to go down. What they don't know what to sim racing equipment to buy or something like that, or if they really want to give it a go, they've got people like ourselves that they can just have a chill chat with and say, I want to maybe give this a go. What should I do? What do you recommend? Because obviously we've all kind of got our things, our mistakes that maybe when we started out we would do differently. And obviously saying that to someone, you could say, I did it this way, but on the road I found I had a couple of mistakes. I would recommend maybe
Mm-hmm.
going for this first, because I know myself, obviously, like I said earlier, obviously I'm quite, I say, entry level sim racing at the minute, but I'd say it's a great place to start. You'll build a lot of friendships, and you'll kind of get that community feel. And then when you're ready to make that jump and you feel like you want to make that jump into kind of more professional sim racing, like iRacing, ACC, obviously the different kind of championships. Like I know Porsche, they have a big iRacing Porsche Cup, obviously, where you can actually win, real money out of it as well. And obviously that's kind of, to someone that's behind a screen and they're not kind of sure which way to go down, that might be something that they want to try in the future. I'd say doing a lot of research, I think, has helped as well, because like I say, when I first started out, it was kind of I think it was that point where a lot of other girls were trying to get into it as well. And I think Init Esports is obviously a very, valuable place. They're empowering women, and to see that, obviously, from where I started, like I said earlier, where a few comments were said here and there, where Init Esports, really kind of empower women. We're talking about issues, we're talking about, recommendations and stuff like that for people that want to get into those kind of, real life racing or sim racing. So I think we're on the right step. And like I say, I'd hope with some of the experiences I had, I could help someone else, because you don't kind of see a lot of women making that jump to sim racing from sim racing to like in real life racing. I've seen a lot more recently make kind of that big jump, but it's just the kind of the sponsorships, the money aspect. I always thought that maybe it's a silly part of my brain where I thought, oh, racing is not cheap, but it's like it's kind of easy to access.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of I tripped at the first hurdle, shall we say. I was like, oh, I'll get my race license, I'll go and try and compete in something. Then it was like, oh, your race license is this much, the track experience is this much, and you've got to kind of add all of them up, and it is a very expensive kind of career to go down. And obviously the first couple of years when you're trying out, there will be kind of a lot of expenses, a lot of learning. But yeah, I'd say to help someone else, it would just be kind of being online, being honest about it as well, and giving recommendations where possible, and just being there, if they've got any struggles or any questions that they want to ask, being kind of that person that they can ask, and you can give that honest feedback to them.
Yeah, as you said, Init Sport doing really good stuff for women in sim racing and in racing as well. So we got good championships and on different platforms. And here's a good community with girls and good people overall. And I think that sim racing is a good base to start with. As you said, it's like more open. It's in my opinion more affordable compared to real
Yep.
life racing for sure, because real life racing so expensive to get in, and you definitely need big budget on the start just to spend on practice sessions and to get into consistent lap times and do all this stuff. And I'm pretty sure that social media can help because when I did formulas, I had only Instagram and I had no clue about streaming and all this stuff. And right now I see that streaming gave me a lot of good contacts and good people supporting me through my way in sim racing and content creation, and that's a good thing. So on Twitch, on YouTube, you can find a good community and audience, and as well people who can be interested in you and probably push you from sim racing to real life racing in the future. So yeah, and speaking about streaming and especially podcasting, we got podcasts here. How did you start this, and can you tell me more about your podcast first? What is it about?
Yeah, of course. I was gonna go back to the lockdown again. That's when I really kind of explored a little bit more about it on Twitch, because obviously we had a lot of time to kind of sit around and play games or sim racing, and I thought, oh, what's Twitch? What is it all about? I'd kind of heard people talking about it. I never really went on it or watched much of it, but when I did, I was kind of, it opened up a whole nother kind of world of social media where you're live streaming, you're having people talk to you, and at the same time you're not talking to them face to face, but you feel like you're talking to them face to face on a stream, because you've got kind of those supportive people that are watching you. They're asking you questions, they're kind of rooting for you when you're racing or you're playing a game. So through streaming, I've made quite a lot of friendships. I'd say quite a lot of my best friends are people that I've met through Twitch, which obviously I'm very grateful for that. But I think I started off actually not playing a racing game, just playing some random kind of Call of Duty stuff like that, and then I found GT Sport, And then I went on to GT7, and that's when, at the time, I explored a little bit more kind of sim racing games or kind of arcadey games. And yeah, I then found out there's a kind of a really big community when it comes to, GT Sport and GT7 in particular. And again, when I started doing that, I got, obviously, like I said earlier, a few people were just like, not much to do about it. But when I found that kind of supportive base and my supportive friends, I really tried to give streaming a lot more attention. And I started a kind of a podcast with my friend, who's also the friend that I set up Nighthawk Racing with, where we just simply watch the Formula One, talk about it a little bit as we're watching it, and kind of give our thoughts and feelings, our opinions. And obviously at the same time, we'd have people talking to us about their favorite drivers, their favorite circuits. And we noticed that people kind of like that interaction when they're watching their favorite sport, we're watching our favorite sport. You get kind of a passionate people kind of speaking about their favorite subjects. You can sometimes, obviously, you can ignite a little bit of debate when it comes to when you say something about a driver and they might not agree, or they might agree with you but give a slightly different opinion. Obviously there's a lot of debate that goes back and forwards. We haven't done that last year because of the kind of the supercar stuff. It's very based on like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So unfortunately last year we couldn't do as much. But nowadays we're always talking about, motorsport in general. And we kind of transition from the podcast into more of the championship stuff. But I'd like to kind of give it a go at some point. And I haven't streamed for about, I'd say 2 to 3 months now. I had a little bit of kind of not a health scare, but last year I got anemic and I didn't feel very well, and kind of I lost that confidence. I'd like to kind of build it up again as I'm feeling a little bit better now. But yeah, I miss streaming. I will get back to it at some point, like I say. But I found out that actually playing alongside my mum, we play GTA, which is obviously, if you know GTA, it's kind of like a character that goes around. You can do different missions and stuff like that. And because obviously she gamed on previous kind of PlayStations, bringing her back to the PS5, showing her the controls, people find that quite funny, because obviously you're watching my mum try and explore a game. She might not know the controls, so I'm sat next to her going, do this, the person's right in front of you, quick, and sometimes it's quite funny when she accidentally gets the wrong person or something like that. I found that quite funny. But like I say, I haven't streamed for quite a few months, but I will get back to it.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see you back online, definitely. Yeah, streaming can be hard, so you need that confidence, and sometimes you can be a little bit shy. So when I started streaming, I was like a little bit shy, close, but right now I'm feeling like comfortable and confident. But every time, when you're starting the first stream after a little break, like you had 2-3 days off, you're like starting from the scratch, like you getting nervous a little bit. So yeah, that definitely can be a thing, and that's cool that your mom actually sharing your passion to sim racing and also trying it together with you. That's awesome.
I say try. She's not. Sometimes when I say break, she'll press the wrong pedal and she'll end up flying into a bar or something. But it's quite funny watching her do it. But yeah, I think like you, I was quite shy when I started, and once I kind of found that confidence and the people that were supporting me on the other end of the screen, that's I kind of delved a little bit more into streaming. I got a little bit more confidence. But like you say, when you take quite a big break that I have, trying to build up that confidence again when you've not done it for quite a while, kind of like driving or motorsport in general, when you've not done it for a while and you jump back into it, it's always that nerve-wracking. Am I as good as what I used to be? I've not practiced. So yeah. I was a little bit nervous before today, but I kind of just remembered, just calm down,
It's okay. We all get nervous when we get in online or with the stream with all the stuff, and we're like recording the videos and doing such a stuff. So it's absolutely fine. Like that's a part of this. It's okay. Can you tell me about your Insta community? And also, I know that you're part of Ravencom's team. What are you doing in this team? Like, are you a driver? And actually, let's talk about your plans for this year in sim racing and in content creation as well.
Yeah, so Raven Comms, it's John's the guy behind it. He kind of more focuses on providing commentary for racing. He usually does, I think, ACC. So that was kind of my first delve into ACC a little bit more when he offered me kind of a role alongside him as kind of a co-commentator on these races. He really taught me a lot about kind of, talking about people that are racing, what cars they're driving, talking a little bit more about the things that people don't realize, trying to convey to people, they may be driving, how are they driving, what are they driving like. If obviously when it's wet conditions, you see people drive obviously a little bit slower because obviously they're trying to be a little bit more careful, but trying to be, as fast as they can, trying to, talk to people about different techniques and providing that kind of commentary, but also a driver's perspective at the same time. And like I say, he was very valuable in the kind of teaching me that commentary side, and that's what I kind of use for the Nighthawk racing. When we do the commentary for those races, I kind of use a bit of tips and tricks that he taught me. I haven't been able to do any commentary with Raven for quite a while, but I recommend anyone watching Raven. He's very passionate about commentary, kind of like the Murray Walkers and stuff like that. He's very, very passionate about it. And Insta community, that's a slightly different. That I said that, well, my friend set it up during lockdown and then decided to give it to me, and obviously then I took over. But the aim of it is to, was to, and still is, to bring kind of people together on Instagram, normally about kind of talking about car stuff. So some people in the car community, especially in the UK, they like to kind of modify their cars a little bit. So you may have someone, with their first car that wants to maybe change the wheels, paint the wheels a different color, put some body kits on it, and obviously they can ask someone in the community, have you done this? Did you find, using a certain product better than another one? So it provides that kind of back-to-back conversation between people. And especially in lockdown, I noticed that it really brought people closer together because, like I said earlier, the world just kind of shut down. It was a tough time for literally everybody in the world. We didn't know kind of what to do. So the next best thing was to talk online, Skype, FaceTime, trying to see your friends through a screen. So that's kind of what I kind of thought with that, is that the car community doesn't have to die because obviously no one's going out with their cars to meet and talk in person. We can still do it, but just online. So the page kind of started off as people getting to know people, showing other people their cars, giving a personal fact about them. Some people don't always like to give kind of, a fact about themselves that's not car related, but we try and kind of show people's cars and the person behind the driving wheel, as I say, to get to know both people. So we like to kind of do profiles on them. So you may have, I don't know, someone with a Ford Fiesta, but you learn a little bit about them because they say, oh, they do tap dancing. So you can kind of tap in a little bit more to that non-car fact, get to know the person a little bit more. And then that's obviously when people start to open up a little bit because they feel a little bit more comfortable. They're given, a fact about themselves that they don't normally or wouldn't normally in a conversation. So it opens up conversations between people, which is often the hardest bit, kind of trying to start that conversation. Sometimes, you might get a little bit of a frosty reception, but sometimes they kind of warm up to you a little bit. And then they start talking to you about other things, projects with their cars, projects for their ongoing kind of projects that they've got going on. And yeah, I've got some plans for that. Especially car shows in the UK. Kind of car meets has got, I'd say, a little bit, I don't know the right word to say it, but it's not very welcomed as such, because obviously you think 6 people meeting in a car, an old lady might come by and say that's antisocial behaviour because people are sitting in their cars and they're all in a group, and that old lady might think it's quite, threatening that people in their nice cars just sitting together. So it's kind of, like I said earlier, frosty reception when it comes to cars, especially with older generations. But organised car shows, when you go into like Brands Hatch, is a good place. They always try and put on car shows for us, car enthusiasts, and we take our cars to those shows, show off our babies, as I call them, because obviously we put a lot of time, effort, money into kind of cleaning and making our cars look, the best that they can, so other people, take pictures and kind of, again, start the conversation of, I like your car, and then you can say, I like your car too. And again, it's just about building kind of friends in that community, because it can be quite hard, but it can be quite also an isolating world when you're not sure where to go. So that's why I try and provide kind of communities in like sim racing or the car world, that people, if they're feeling a little bit lonely or they feel like they need kind of a place to meet friends, meet people, then I try and provide that kind of place for someone to go to. About myself, I'm at that stage where I'm not quite sure what step to take next. I've got a lot of kind of plans running around in my head and stuff written down, but I'd say at some point I'd like to go and get that race license, because it opens kind of the key to the rest of the plans that I want to do. But it's just about kind of learning a bit more about motorsport in general, kind of budgeting, sponsorships, what kind of the first road to go down, because when you get your race license, obviously then it opens up a whole world of like, what category do you want to race, what's your budget, how much sponsorship do you need. Then when you want to go for your ARDS instructor's course, you have to have completed a certain amount of racing to then go for that course. And at that point, it's again another outlay of money where you have to go and kind of find a racing school which can provide that course of becoming an ARDS instructor. And then at that point is when you can kind of teach racing drivers or kind of experienced day people the track. And obviously you've got a qualification behind you that you can say, you know how to race cars, you know how to drive cars, you know how to show people around this track. But it's quite a big jump, and like I say, I think obviously that's a long way off for me at the moment, but hopefully not too far off, maybe by the end of the year, hopefully.
All right. So wish you good luck in your future plans. Hopefully, once
Thank you.
again, I'm going to tell this, that you're going to get your racing license, and will go to one step forward in racing. Would like to know about car community in UK actually, because we've been talking about with other guests, Lenaby, about car culture in Thailand, because she visited Bangkok recently, and been talking about also car community here in Kazakhstan. So here people really crazy about BMWs, and I think JDM culture is really popular as well. So what is the most popular in UK for you? Like maybe JDM or BMWs, maybe something else?
I'd say it's very similar. The BMWs have got a lot of following over here, kind of that German cars as well, like Volkswagen and kind of Porsche and those sort of cars. It's got a big kind of following in the UK. I'd say also the JDM. You kind of got your different kind of subgroups of the car culture, but it all kind of brings you together. So the JDM culture is quite big here as well. The BMWs. I'd say here you've kind of got your kind of, I don't know what the right group would be cool to call them, but I call them boy racers. They kind of buy, the older cars, kind of mod them up, and you're hearing from about a mile away because the exhaust is so loud. But they kind of buy kind of cheaper cars to then mod up, and that's why I call them the boy racers, because they're always kind of in car parks revving their cars up. But yeah, I'd say BMW and JDM. But I'd say it's usually German versus Jap here in terms of kind of cars. I'd say they're equally as big. But yeah, I'm more kind of the German cars myself. I own a Volkswagen Scirocco R, so I'm kind of more on the German side. But also I've got a lot of friends that like the Japanese cars, kind of modding them up. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other cars that are popular here. I'd say it's similar to kind of like you said, BMWs and JDMs. They kind of rule the car culture.
Yeah, seems like it's like the same trend on the whole
Yeah.
planet. Yeah, kind of like it's really funny because GDM is so crazy. We actually get a lot of cars here in Kazakhstan from Japan in like 2000s, and here are so many cool projects which people running like so many Subarus, so many Mark II, Toyotas, and and BMW. One of the biggest community we got here. So they got really old BMWs, modern BMWs, and that's really cool. So what about cars like Lotus or something else? Because when I worked as a racing instructor, we had good community with some Esprits. They had some Lotus Elise, and I think TSR or something like this. So they've been really crazy about all these British cars, and I still remember this beautiful Lotus Esprit in emerald green color. It was really cool.
Yeah, I've got to say they are pretty cool. You don't actually see that many kind of Lotuses on the roads in the UK anymore. You see a few, and obviously then you really appreciate how kind of when you see one, because like I said, there's not many on the roads at the minute. I know obviously kind of Jaguar recently in the news, especially they kind of went through that controversy with their new logo. Some people really liked it, some people really hated it. But obviously they're kind of waiting for that new car reveal to see if they kind of really love it. But the kind of the old Jags especially, they're very kind of popular with I'd say probably the older generations, because obviously they're a bit more kind of popular back, especially when like my mum and dad grew up. I think also at the time kind of I'd say, trying to think of more British brands that I'd say they're not as popular over here as what they used to be, but you still kind of appreciate them when you see them, especially kind of like you say the TVRs and the Lotuses. But I don't know if it might be just a Britain thing, but I don't think we appreciate them as much as we probably should. We kind of more appreciate, like I said, the BMWs and the JDMs. So yeah, I mean, I like the old Jags and stuff. But yeah, we should probably like our own cars a little bit more, but we don't really. We just kind of like say choose to kind of import cars in or kind of go for different cars. I don't know if obviously because our government don't give them enough funding anymore. Especially obviously, I think our government at the moment are trying to bring in more kind of electric cars. So you've got different kind of car brands trying to start up, but they don't quite get the funding, kind of the support from our government to really make a big dent in the car market.
Understand this. Thanks for correcting me with TVR. It's really a small manufacturer, actually. And I saw one car. It was like in beautiful purple color. It was really beautiful inside with aluminum desk and all this stuff. It was really cool to see. Yeah, they're so beautiful. Do you have any plans for your Volkswagen Sirocco? Like maybe you would like to take a part in some car shows or something like this?
Yeah, I would love to definitely take it to some more car shows this year. Unfortunately, last year with work and stuff, whenever they were on a weekend, I'd always be working. I'd be like, oh, I can't go to the car shows that I love. But I'm trying to really this year kind of go back into more going to car shows, maybe going to some race meetings with it. I'd like to probably, I know a few friends want to go, but kind of take it over to the Nürburgring, kind of go on a really kind of big road trip. I've never been to Wales or Scotland, but I'd love to do those very kind of beautiful road trips where you stop off on the way, get some pictures. I'd say the car itself, I kind of bought it already kind of modded to my taste. So it had kind of bigger brakes on it, some body kits, bits. Probably more delve into more of the power side eventually, but I'm kind of happy how it is at the minute. I've probably got a few plans of kind of trying to mod or trying to change up a little bit of how it looks, but yeah, kind of I had another Volkswagen beforehand, a little Polo that I bought, with nothing on. I started from scratch on that one and kind of modified it as I went, and I really kind of enjoyed that process of putting you know a splitter on, a side skirt, a diffuser, exhaust, and kind of really teaches you how these brands make their cars and how they can, especially it's open to adaptation. When you buy a car, you want to make it to your liking, and I really enjoy that kind of process of making it my own. I'd say I'm not quite there with the Sirocco. Like I say, I bought it with kind of someone else doing it up, and I'm still in that process of making it my own. But yeah, I love my little R. I shouldn't. I probably should drive it a little bit more than I should, but I've kind of I've got to that stage where I just love it so much. I'm just like, I just don't want to hurt you. Like I just want you to stay there, look pretty.
Yeah, truly Sirocco, one of my favorite Volkswagens ever, and it's so beautiful. Actually, really sad that they stopped to make them, so we don't have any new models of Sirocco. It's really, really sad. But this second generation, it looks really beautiful. I love it personally. So yeah, wish you good luck with your Volkswagen. So probably we're going
Thank
to
you.
see you in some car shows as well. So the last one will be, what is your advice to girls and to women who would like to dive into sim racing, into racing, and maybe be a part of some car shows?
Yeah, obviously I'd say that there is platforms out there that you can kind of reach out and discuss, potential ideas, kind of what you think you want to get into. And like I said earlier, some people may give you recommendations as to start with this, work up to this, and along the way maybe learn about kind of different processes that go on behind the scene. I would tell people as well just to give it a go. I think the worst thing is kind of thinking about it. And I know from myself, I tend to overthink about things. And when I get around to actually doing it, it's not as bad as what I initially thought. So I'd always try and recommend someone to just give it a go. If it's not just dipping your toes in, a little tester, that's better than not doing it. And then at that time, you know if you like it or if you don't. So I'd always say if you want to give something a go, just do it. You might be really scared, but once you've done it, it's not as scary as you think. And that's what my kind of parents have always taught me, that at least give it a go once, try your best. If you don't like it after you've done it, then you don't have to do it again. But if you love it, then you then kind of go back to the planning board. You think, all right, how can I do more of this? What do I need to buy? What do I need to learn? So yeah, I'd say try and find a kind of a community or some friendships as well that like similar things, so you can always kind of support each other going through that process. And yeah, just give it a go once. And there's loads of women out there that want to support each other, want to support new people coming in, trying to uplift them and show you that it's not as a bad place as what you might have thought of. And like you said earlier, there's people, especially on the other side of the screen, that hopefully can either be role models or inspire someone to do it. Like I said, I think it's good that there's a lot more kind of women, especially in real motorsport, like kind of the F1 Academy, the Iron Dames especially. They're kind of ones that I think, well, if they can do it, well, other people can do it, like myself. It's just obviously that jump, and sometimes you just have to make that jump to realize that it's something you really love doing and that you want to continue doing.
Yeah, that's great advice from your side. Like, just give it a go, and if you don't like it, you can stop, like sim racing or racing, and maybe if you like it, you can continue, and you always can find people who's going to support you. We got a bunch of communities, a lot of different like social medias, and also I think people can follow Init Sports and jump into some screen to speed races on different platforms as well. So yeah, and Sarah, thank you so much for talking with me. It was a pleasure. You're amazing. We wish you good luck to your future with some racing and racing. And thank you so much, guys, for watching.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, you're amazing too.
Thank you. Bye bye, guys. See you. All right. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Good. So it did really nice. You said that you didn't stream and did anything like this like long time. You did well.